I am doing quite well, thank you. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, hello, I am Spore. I was slash still kind of am a top Inkbrush player in late Splatoon 2 and throughout like Splatoon 3. But over the last like sort of couple of years, I've been getting more and more into the TOing side of things. I ran my first tournament right at the very end of Splatoon 2, and ever since then, I've been running tournaments specifically for the UK Splatoon scene. So just the Splatoon community that exists within the United Kingdom of Great Britain and also Ireland as well. There's a separate like thing, but yeah, I've been like high slash top level player, and now like at this point I'm now like well on my way into sort of transitioning into being more of a TO than a player at this point, I think. I don't know, right? There is a pipeline to it, I swear. So it kind of started when I was about 13 or 14, and I was playing a game called Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare, which was a third-person shooter made by PopCap. Plants vs Zombies, where like you had Plants vs Zombies. And that was a like surprisingly good game. But the reason I got into that game was because there was a YouTuber I liked watching called Zach Scott Games, who I think some other people might be familiar with who Zach Scott is, because he's made so many videos about so many different games at this point. But at one point he started playing this game called Splatoon, and I was realizing that this was like right at the end of the PlayStation 3's life cycle, because the PlayStation 4 had recently come out, so I was like, okay, I need to like get a new console. And Zach Scott Games had started playing this game called Splatoon, and it looked really, really fun. The first video that I watched by him was of him playing the ink brush, like right after it had come out in the game.
Okay.
So it's funny how things like that just kind of influence you later down the line, I suppose. But I remember like seeing the game, and I really wanted to play it, so I wanted to get a Wii U to play it, and I had to like basically like negotiate with my parents because my parents were very sort of anti me doing anything to do with like toy guns or like guns in video games or anything like that.
Yeah.
So when they saw that Splatoon was listed as a shooter game, they were like, "No, no, you are son, you are not allowed to play this game." And then I had to like get up YouTube videos of them being like, "Look, there are like there's these shooters, but they're like like the super soakers or whatever, and there's also like paint rollers in the game and that." And I think the agreement that I came to with my parents was that I'd be allowed to play it as long as I like mostly or just entirely played like the melee weapons,
Okay.
so like
Fair.
roller and brush and stuff. Uh, and then yeah, I just like played Splatoon 1 casually. Splatoon 2, I got into competitive because of a video made by That Has to Be Two Dude, which was like I think how a lot of people got like into competitive Splatoon during 2018. I remember that was like a really good period for the like just for the series as a whole,
Yeah.
to get in. And I have been sticking around ever since.
Yeah, I mean that's one way. I think honestly for me, I think that's like one of the reasons why I got into competitive was literally uh just because of Dude. Like it's Dude and Kiver, because I remember like they popped up on my feed when I was getting more to watching Dude, and I was like, yeah, I want to play this competitively.
I think like I remember like watching Dude's video and like I was all it took was Dude's video, because the thing was is like I thought that I was good at the game, and
Hmm.
I was like, oh yeah, I'm good at Splatoon, I'm an S rank. I could like I could be like a really good competitive player. And then obviously like there's this sort of reality check when you have that sort of mindset going into competitive, where you realize that you're actually really, really bad at the game. But like as soon as I accepted that, it was like, okay, I actually need to get better at the game. And then lo and behold, like I got better at the game, because turns out sometimes all you need to do is have a good mindset when you go into these things.
Yeah, part of me like I forget what made me find it, but there was like this really old video I had recorded on like this old camera I had when I like I think this was like 2018 when I was like kind of very casually not in any like the comp scene or anything, but like just playing casually. Um, and it was me recording me playing the Aerospray, and I was like, I'm gonna be the best Aerospray player.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I don't think so, buddy. Because when you get into comp, you realize that like there are weapons that just aren't good.
I mean, like, see, like, it's funny you mentioned the aerospray, right? Because like, aerospray was one of those weapons that I was never interested in as a casual, and I wasn't really interested in it for a good chunk of competitive.
Hmm.
But I start like once I got to like once I started getting more established in plus two and finding like people to play with, one of the people that I really like playing with, and someone that I do miss playing with even now is Pika, like Pika Day
Oh
465.
yes, yeah.
Um, and through speaking with them about like just oh this weapon can do this weapon can do that, it made me start like especially towards the end of Splatoon 2 when the game was very much just sort of we were waiting. It was like the Splatoon 3 waiting room at the time. So I was like oh this is like a really good time for me to just try stuff out in scrims. So I would go into scrims and I'd be like, oh, I've been playing Sploosh 7 in Rainmaker, and then that progressed into let me try playing Neo Sploosh in a Rainmaker game in a plus two scrim, and it actually worked out really well. I did also try like both. No, I didn't try the gold aerospray, but I definitely tried the obviously the Booyah Bomb aerospray had the funny thing where you could just sit on humpback and spam like 15 Booyahs a
Yeah,
game like really
yeah.
easily. But like
I don't miss that.
I remember like playing a scrim. It was against like Cherry Limeade, and it was like 3 in the morning for me because I'm in the United Kingdom,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, it's Clown Blitz on Piranha Pit. This map is really, really flat. I'm just gonna see what happens if I play like the Silver Arrow with the Curling Rush. Because I was like, oh, Curling Rush is probably gonna be really, really good at killing people here. And I remember I went like 24 and 1. Because all I would do is ignore everything happening in the game, and then as soon as they would push like to try and take one side, I'd pop Curling Rush and kill like 2 or 3 of them. And that was 80% of the interaction I had with the match. I didn't play objective. I didn't like fight anything with my gun. I was just like, let me just paint the floor and curling rush.
Yeah, just pay just launch hundreds of curly bombs and just keep going from there.
Yeah, just actually, it's like that. I remember like as well, like back in those days, it felt like there was like a lot more like freedom in terms of like you could pick something and it would actually work up to an extent. I feel like nowadays in Splatoon 3, like with the way that the game has gone and like the map design that is seen a lot in like especially in like the common competitive stages, I feel like if like not necessarily like it is more restrictive, but I think people like think that the game is more restrictive than it actually is, and that's why we see so many of like the same sort of weapons all over the place.
Yeah, because just the way the maps have been created, it feels better for more either, pure rushdown weapons that we've seen like a lot of certain shooters and certain mid lines, or it's like play from a range perspective. So there's just that huge gray area of weapons that just aren't really touched unless you get that rare player who's like a one trick and is able to use it to its like max capability.
Yeah, and even then, like a lot of those one tricks that like were around in Splatoon 2, a lot of them have sort of like started like phasing out of like Splatoon 3, or they were phasing out over like the course like the first like year and a half of the game. So, I mean, like I play Aimbrush, right? So that's like one of those weapons that's like very much like you have to one trick it to like be good.
Yeah.
And I remember at the start of Splatoon 3, and like for the first year or so, that was like I was playing it, like you had Trizzy playing it, Rob was playing it, like Lucas or Lulu was like playing it, and then like New Meta stopped playing, so Lulu stopped playing. Rob like kind of just stopped playing the game. Trizzy still plays, but like it's pretty obvious that like Trizzy's like playing a lot with friends at the moment,
Mhm.
so they're not really like going out into tournaments and like trying to prove how good Inkbrush is.
Yeah.
And I've also been like kind of without a group of players for a long time, so I've not really had an environment to like sort of I've not really had an opportunity to keep going into tournaments with Ingbrush to do stuff with it. So you never really see that weapon very often at like high levels of play anymore. And it's just
Yeah.
like it's just an example of how like things have sort of changed over the last few years, I guess.
Yeah, and especially since we're like pretty much at the end of Splatoon 3's life cycle, right? We're just waiting for any kind of announcement for things to go forward for the next iteration. It's just seeing a lot of the same old at this point, and maybe like one or two weapons that are like we're kind of like they're kind of like in that midish area where it's like they could be really good for like certain map modes though. And that's really it.
Mm.
So how long have you been playing comp? Or is it, like most of the time you've like had Splatoon in general, or it was like after a while of like trying it out?
I can pinpoint the exact date that I started conf actually. Not the not off the top of my head, but I remember my first tournament, and
Hmm.
like this is another one of those like kind of funny how things have turned out moments because my first tournament was a online qualifier for the 2018 UK Splatoon 2 Championships.
Oh wow.
So that was my first ever tournament, and I went into it with like two people who I had never met, and then we really needed a fourth. So yeah, this was like back in like sort of early low level where like you knew nothing about nobody.
Hmm.
So like there was no low ink like podcast to watch to like find
Yeah.
out who the latest like up and coming players were, you know.
Yeah.
So we just basically rolled the dice and we are like, hey, we need a fourth for our like for this UK qualifier, and we got this guy right.
Hmm.
This guy called Snipes. Um, and I played like we're playing the tournament with this guy, and obviously we're not very good, so we're really not doing very well.
Yeah.
And like I remember like Snipes rage quit like halfway through the tournament. Like it was like we lost like some. I think we like lost a bunch, and then he got like really like upset and left because he was still like very much like a young teenager at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then like 6 years, like 6 years later, I played LAN with him and I won the LAN, and that was like that was a moment. I was just sort of like, I was like, on the VOD, there's like they had it the mic like all of the players on my like pickup.
Hmm.
And we had like we to sort of give our thoughts like closing moments like I want to shout out these and this people, and I'm just there I'm just standing there being like, right, so I've just won like a LAN, which is effectively like a replacement for the UK Championships.
Hmm.
So I've won the UK champion, like I've won basically UK Championships, which is like one of my like long term goals in competitive. And next to me is Snipes, who I've played my first ever tournament with. Um, there's Yoshel, who I remember like Yoshel. There was like a similar event like a few years ago, and Yoshel at the time was still like in mid level.
Hmm.
Still really good for like still really good actually. Like just the team that he was on at the time was
Yeah.
like sort of like around Div 4. Um, but like obviously Yoshel's like come so far in that time, being like basically the best pencil like in the West, if not probably in the
Definitely.
world at this point. Um, and then there's like Takibi, who is like another player that I like played with like towards the end of Splatoon 2, and I kind of like got him his big break and like super jump. So I was just kind of standing there, just being like, wait a minute, I'm standing next to three players who've essentially like grown alongside me for like the last god knows how long. Um, and also this LAN happened, and I'd like ran tournaments, like I'd run the online qualifiers for the LAN. So I was just kind of like, holy fuck. And so when like, the mic gets past me, I'm just like, oh, but yeah, yeah, words. We're here in the venue today. It's just like,
We did this thing. We're here.
yeah, I'm just like, yeah, we did this thing over here. Whereas in my brain, I'm just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like,
What would you
yeah.
say like your most memorable moment in the comp scene would be? Because I feel like that's got to be up there for one.
Yeah, that moment is one of them. Another moment that I like remember like pretty well is there's a lot of stuff that I remember because like I don't know, like I've always sort of treated Splatoon like playing competitive Splatoon as sort of like I guess like this like it's about the journey, not the destination kind of thing.
Yeah, no,
Because
definitely.
I definitely don't feel like I've like hit a destination point anytime soon.
Hmm.
But I think some of like the most memorable moments for me is like I got into +2 on my 18th birthday.
Oh, nice.
So that sounds like it might be a recent event. I am going to be turning 23 this year, so
That's still a cool birthday gift to get at some point.
it was a pretty cool birthday gift. But I remember like I got in and like because this was like at the time the Plus server was actually able to vote people out. So like it was very sort of concerned with regulating like the upper and lower skill bounds.
Yeah.
So like this month they decided, okay, we're gonna let a whole bunch of players in, and we're gonna see if any of those players are like good enough. And I was one of the players that they let in. I had like very mediocre results. Half the results that I had achieved by playing a quad ink brush like pickup alongside like Pika, Krakenmare, and Oppai. And I got into +2 of those results, and then not even 2 weeks later, a bunch of like the more influential players in the server are like, "All right, guys, the quality of practice has dipped significantly. We're gonna like, we need to purge a bunch of people from the server. We need to like nuke this thing." And I'm just there like, "Oh god, I just got in, and they're talking about like kicking a whole bunch of people. I hope I'm not one of those people." And then yeah, I didn't get kicked, and I'm still in. How many months has it been? Like 48, 53. This will be month 54, I think, of being in +2 consecutively. So that's the thing. In terms of like other memorable moments, I guess like kind of also tied to +2. Though this one's like a bit less of a happy memory, I suppose. When you're in a server like the Plus server, you like, especially like someone like me who I have autism, so I kind of need to, if I'm not playing with like people that I'm comfortable with, then I play a lot worse, and I often get very anxious. It's really important to find people that you really like playing with. And there was a player that I really like playing with in +2. He got in a little while after I did. A guy called Kronos, he was a top player in S1, but he took a break, and then he came back to Splatoon 2, playing like CDS instead of Range Blaster.
Okay.
And I got along with him, and I really like playing with him, and we'd often do like pickups together. And then I got a message. It would have been about like, it would have been like about I want to say it's like 3-4 years ago. Like roughly. I get a DM from another one of Kronos's friends to say that he'd passed away, like unexpectedly of I can't remember, like he was just gone, like just like that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's one of those things that you don't really expect to happen. Like a lot of people in the Splatoon community are like quite young. I mean, I was like 20 at the time, I think. And yeah, it's just one of those things that hits you really hard because it's like, it was a very like sudden, unexpected thing to have happened. And as I say, I really like, it was one of those things where like I played with him a bunch and we got along while we were playing the games, and I would have liked to have gone. I would have loved to have gone more of opportunities to get to know him better, especially because my team and the team that he made, a team called like my team, Chewits Mafia. His team was a team called Deep Dream. We were often like scrim partners as well, so we'd often scrim against each other, and there were like good vibes between that as well. So it's one of those things. I think the other like memory for me that really sort of like stands out, like at least one of them, it was Splatoon. Like it was almost 2 years ago now. So Splatoon 3, and after like disbanding for the god knows how many time, Chewits Mafia, team chat was just like, "Hey, there's this tournament coming up." I think it was like I would say it was 20XX actually. It was a 20XX, and we were like, "Hey, let's just play it for fun and see what happens." And we played day one, and we do alright on day one, considering that we're like kind of out of practice of playing with each other.
Yeah.
But this is like the 20XX where they had fucking Squid School or whatever. Like before, obviously this was before all the stuff came out about him, right?
Yeah.
But he was doing an analysis desk for them, and he actually pointed out some like fake. Like we were on one of the games on stream, so he points out like, hey, like this team's really really good, and there's a couple of things we could maybe do a bit better. And I actually like just bring these up. I bring this up in like text chat, whatever. Like, guys, when we go in tomorrow, this is what was said. Let's like try and do better. And
Yeah.
we're like, it's like, yeah, we're gonna go and do better. So after rushing home, which also consisted of me dodging a bus fare, I hop on to play day 2, and not far into the bracket, we get matched up against the top seed Japanese pickup, which is like 4 of the best like players in the world at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we fucking beat them. And I start popping off on Twitter, and then Twitter starts popping off, and we're like, "Oh my god! Like, how the fuck did this like top JP pickup lose to C33? Like, it was one of the like great. Like, I mean, they were memeing game 1 and kind of game 2 as well, but then they realized that they might actually lose, and they locked in for game 3, and they still lost that one because it was Clambert's on the Eel Tail Alley.
Oh my god.
But I remember like when that was happening, it's like, oh my god, the entirety of like Splatoon Twitter is just like freaking out about the fact that this has happened, and it's like, whoa, we did a thing.
Yeah.
There's like a bunch of other stuff that I remember from like lands that I've been to, like the entirety of the RSL experience. Obviously, the land I was recently at, Splat Legacy, which I ended up winning and it was sort of just like it felt like it was the final like episode of a really like really turbulent TV series.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I could like ramble on about it for hours, but obviously, like, we do want to like try to stick to some sort of time here, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, those are some like awesome like memories to have from just playing Splatoon in general, right? It's incredible to hear like the different experiences that you've been able to have this far so far, right? Obviously into the game, especially in like the comp wise and just in general. How long have you been going to LANs for?
My first LAN was in February of 2020, so I didn't really like. Literally, like I went to the LAN, and then less than a week later, lockdown was announced in the United Kingdom of. So, like I was Winter Breeze, that one, and I went with a couple of other like sort of mid-level UK players because I myself was a mid-level at the time. We didn't do like exceptionally well or exceptionally poorly. We played to our seed. It was fine.
Yeah.
The main thing I remember about that Lando was essentially, well, 2 things. One, it was the creation of Pink Pixies, which is like a really like strong UK pickup that like every time that UK Champs was brought up, it was like, yeah, Pink Pixies will probably win that. And that was what people were saying for like until basically the UK Champs were announced for Splatoon 3. But the other thing that happened was I got knocked out by basically like the content creator pickup, I'm gonna call it.
Okay.
It was like Dude, Milana, Barry, and I don't remember who the 4th was.
Oh yeah.
But I remember after the set, Barry, like as we're standing up with we're like shaking each other's hands or whatever, and then Barry is just like, all right, which one of you was the brush? And I just get this like I just start grinning, and I look at him and I just start grinning. And as I'm shaking his hand, he stares at me dead in the eyes. He's just like, bro, your brush is so filthy. It's so fucking filthy. And I'm just like, it's like, I know that sounds like it's a really sort of like bad thing to say to someone. Like, oh my god, your weapon is so fucking filthy. Oh my god.
Yeah,
But it's
like in the comp scene, it's a compliment.
yeah, like it was a really big compliment at the time because I was sort of like, obviously I was like wanting to get better at the game, and I kind of needed a boost in terms of like realizing how good I was starting to become, I guess. So it's one of those like really nice interactions that I remember. I've never like interacted with Barry before or after that point, but it's something that I remember, and I'm like, yeah, I remember when that guy said that, and it it was one of the first like really big compliments I remember getting in the scene. Obviously LAN stopped happening during like COVID.
Yeah.
I started going to LANs again in 2022. there was a UK LAN called Splat Reunion, which
Hmm.
was basically intended to be like the first sort of like LAN tournament since like the whole pandemic thing happened.
Yeah.
Um, and so I played that. I was one of the like I basically got invited to it because during the lockdown period, Chivas Mafia was like the undisputed best team in the United Kingdom.
Hmm.
So we would basically just rock up to all the online events and stomp them. Um, there was like one event like which was called like I think it's like Gfinity Inc. series, and it was basically like 4 tournaments, and the price for each of the tournaments was £10 worth of gold points.
Okay.
So um, I technically participated in all 4 of them, so I got 40 quids worth of free gold points off of that,
Hey.
and that was what I used to buy Splatoon 3. So Splatoon 3, like I got for less than a tenner, which is like really good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we got because we were like dominant during the lockdown era. We got invited to the Splat Reunion, and we played that against 3 other teams. One of which was Zero team at the time, a team called Unlucky. There was a team called Yellow Snow, which was basically like a pickup of like people from a team called Snowpoint, which like was always like kind of there or kind of not. Like it was like that team that's like they were reliably get like second or third every tournament, but they're like never gonna win it.
Yeah.
And then there was a team called Way or like Way, and they were basically just like there for the shits, but they ended up winning. Well, I say they were there for the shits. That pickup went on to become Spark,
Oh
so
my gosh.
so things happened.
Yeah.
Um, but then I've been going to lands like pretty much like ever since then. I went to Rising Squid LAN in 2023. So that was my first time doing a LAN abroad. I went to the Netherlands for that. Um, and it was quite a fun experience. Um, I got like third in that LAN. I played like with probably one of like the strangest LAN lineups like in all of history. It was like me, Ninja, Margin, as in like the Margin from like the really 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 good Margin.
Oh yeah.
And then this like Dutch player called Ayato, who like he was like a tri-slosher one trick. So
Yeah.
we were
Hmm.
running like Rapid Blaster, Pro Deco, Ink Brush, tri-slosher, and like whatever Matt was playing, because Matt didn't really play the game. Um, so it was basically just him picking weapons and being like, I hope this works, and most of the time it did, because Matt used to be really good at the game, and if you get good at Splatoon once, you kind of don't ever lose that.
Hmm.
Um, aside from that, I like 2023. One of the lands I went to was also this will be relevant for obviously we're talking about NSE.
Hmm.
One of the lands I went to was the NSE finals, um, which was held at a gaming convention called Insomnia,
Okay.
which is held in Birmingham, and I won that with my university at the time. So that was like my first ever like LAN win.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, but I turned up to Breeze in 2023 as well with a pickup. I got fourth, and then yeah, this year I went to 2 LANs this year. Splat Vibes, which is a UK only LAN. I didn't go as a player, but I went as a spectator. Um, Basically, I just wanted to like hang out with my friends, and
Yeah.
then Splat Legacy was obviously the other LAN, which I ended up winning. So yeah, I've been like I'm quite seasoned with LANs at this point, I would say.
Hmm.
Like, there's been a lot of like different challenges with all the lands that I've been to. Oh, I also went to the 2023 UK champs, but like I was there as a spectator because it was a 5-man roster, and they were
Hmm.
kind of just like, okay, well, we want to start practicing in July. You're on holiday for like basically all of July, so we're gonna like practice with the other 4, and that'll be our roster for UKC. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, okay, that's what we're doing. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's cool though that you've been to so many different types of lands, and it's just so unfortunate that after your first land, the world pretty much shut down. But
I
it's
was,
cool to
yeah.
see that it's made its way back, especially because like, and like here in the States, right? Like obviously, like, I've seen, local after local pop up over and over, majors here and there. But it's really cool to see from the on the other side, what you guys have going on. It's really cool to hear that there's a lot of um, consistent options.
No, I mean that's from the other side of the pod, like looking into like the US side of things. It's really cool that there's a lot of locals being set up, and it's sort of like this year, like most of the UK lands I've been to have all been organized by the same guy,
Hmm.
and he's taking a very well-deserved break this year.
Yeah.
So I like, because considering I've run like online tournaments for the UK scene, and I've got some like connections who also want to start looking into running like offline events. Like I'm basically looking at these like US locals and being like, what are they doing? What could I like change about it to like make this work better for the UK, or like even like right down to like stuff like equipment or like entry fees or like
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
strategies that people are using to just like turn up. Like it's really nice to like see like local tournaments like popping up all across the US.
Yeah, allows you to have that kind of like alternate perspective and share ideas and get ideas to like help improve.
Mm-hmm.
So how long have you been in the collegiate scene for Splatoon?
I was there basically when it was founded. So, well, for the UK side of things,
Yeah.
I've not really been too involved with like the CCA side of things.
Hmm.
With the exception of when I did a collaboration tournament with them called Collegiate Crossfire, where we took the best teams, like the top four teams from NSE, the top four teams from the CCA's first division, and
Hmm.
we pitted them against each other. The a CCA team won that, but in the finals there was an NSE team, so it's
Oh,
like
nice.
it's it's. I thought that was really cool. I was like, all right, let's go. One of my boys made it to the final.
That's
Because it was
always
we were
exhilarating.
really we were so unsure about how like the teams were gonna stack up at the time. I remember,
Hmm.
um, but like they ended up being very good matches for each other for the most part, so that was cool. But as I said, I've been around in like UK collegiate scene since like the very beginning.
Nice.
I've like before Splatoon 3 was released, I messaged Pixel Squid. Pixel Squid's the guy who like basically has run like most like the vast majority of the UK scenes tournaments.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Hey, are you in university? And or do you know like any contacts for like people that are like could potentially set up like a Splatoon like into the university like Splatoon tournament for like the different universities?" University is what we call like college.
Yeah, yeah, I figured, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and he was like, "I'm not at a uni anymore, but I know some people." So he went ahead and messaged those people. Those people were from a company called National Student Esports, and they held a single Splatoon tournament in like October 2022, and it was meant to be it was just a one-off tournament. I think they were using it to gauge interest.
Yeah.
Um, and they were like quite pleasantly surprised by the fact that there were like a decent number of signups.
Okay.
And they were. I played that with my university at the time. We came second. We lost to who did we lose to? We lost to the University of Bath. That was it. Um, it's Bath, not Bath. By the way. Um, got to get that out there.
Yeah.
But this then prompted NSE to start wanting to run more Splatoon tournaments, and NSE also, because they're like a company, like a company where like people get paid and stuff.
Okay.
They also have like a professional relationship with Nintendo. So when Nintendo was looking for ways to run the UK Splatoon 3 2023 qualifiers, and they saw that NSE wants to run a Splatoon tournament, the two teamed up and they ran the first ever NSE Splatoon 3 University League. That was won by my university at Insomnia. I know the VOD is up there on YouTube if you look for it, and you get to see me wearing my university esports hoodie.
Oh yeah.
Um, like which is a bit of a surreal feeling. But we won that like quite confidently, and
Hmm.
that tournament turned out to be a spot for the 2020 like the winning that tournament was a spot for the 2023 UK Championships.
Wow.
I was to play with Churros Mafia at the time though, so I basically just like got my mates to qualify for UK champs for, and then like played said I was going to play with another team instead, which we weren't told about the prize being like UK Championship qualification until after we had won the tournament.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just got put on us, and I was like, well, I was already going to play with these people, and it was a 5-person roster on my uni anyway, so it wasn't really that much of a problem. It turned out to be really useful later on down the line though, because for the UK between 2023 championships, one of the several things that happened was Nintendo basically told people that, yeah, we're not going to like cover your costs to like get to the venue or like accommodation or anything like that. We'll give you they gave us like free tickets for the for the convention where the final was held, which was funnily enough also an Insomnia, but they didn't like give us any sort of like accommodation, any sort of like they didn't like try and subsidize our travel costs or anything like that. And one of my mates on my university Splatoon team happens to live like quite close by to the place where the con was being held. So he set up a tent in his back garden, and it was like me and Ips and all of the guys from the university team, and we all like just there were 2 girls and they like slept in the bedroom because obviously you don't want like guys and girls like sharing a tent ideally. But we all like stayed in a tent in his back garden for the night. It's like the worst sleep I've ever had.
I can only imagine how comfortable that had to be.
And yeah, I compared this to like NSE, who actually like subsidized our travel costs to an extent, booked us a hotel. Like, it was kind of funny, but also it was like, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like we got we got more stuff covered for the qualifier than we actually did for the bloody championships. But yeah, as in terms of my involvement as like an admin, that's been more recent. So originally, I don't even remember who was like doing admin stuff for it initially, but they realized that they needed to hire a dedicated game admin. So they hired Pixel Squid in that role, and he did it for I think like 1 or 2 seasons. And then he wanted to take a step back from it because like Pixel has like 50 million things going on. Like he's like a game developer, but he also has a full-time job, but he's also like he was doing a whole bunch of stuff to organize Splatoon LAN, so it was like very much like workaholic. And he was like, okay, I need to take a step back from this. So he took a step back from NSE, and they put out a thing in the Discord being like, hey, we need to have like a new Splatoon admin. ZM, like it's like fill in this like Google like Sheets form, and then we'll look at them over, and you know, if you're like successful, we'll give you an interview or whatever. It was literally like applying for a job. Right?
Yeah.
I applied for the job because I was like, I wasn't at university anymore, and I was like, you know, like it's a little bit of extra cash, and it's something I enjoy doing anyway. Like I've done this for free, and it's like I can put it like I can include it on like CVs and stuff if I decide I want to like work in the esports industry more like full time or whatever. So I put in an application. I made it through the interview. I did the interview, and then like I got the role, and I've been NSE admin for about a year now.
Nice.
So yeah.
What's it been like for the past year working with them for stuff like this?
It's really like relaxed, honestly. Like just because of the nature of the way it works, like I'm not like I basically just like rock up when I basically just turn up when there's a tour, like when we have like some rounds to run, because the league takes place over at least like 5 weeks.
Okay.
So for about like 5 weeks, I turn up on a Monday, like Monday evening. I get briefed on like stuff, and then we have this thing called the captain's meeting, which to this day I've never heard of a Splatoon tournament that does this. I think it might be a thing in like other games potentially, but this is like a very specific NSE thing, where essentially all of the captains from all of the teams join this voice channel, and then they're all like stuck on mute, and then I join the channel, and then I basically just like tell them like verbally like, hi, here are like the latest updates from NSE, like, you know, go play like women in non-binary Valorant 2v2s, or like we have a Genshin Impact thing on or whatever. And then I brief them with stuff about the tournament. And then they go off and play their games, and I basically just like sit and like watch help desk and make sure that things are running smoothly on like the tournament, like the back end of the website and that. And yeah, it's really, really, really chill.
Nice.
Even after like I've picked up working full time, like on Mondays, I still have like full commitment to doing it, like doing NSE on Monday evenings, because it doesn't even really feel like work, you know. Like when you enjoy doing something, it doesn't really feel like you're working very much. So I can, even if it's like a really long Monday and it's like I can still just like turn up, like cook some pasta real quick, and then just like help NSC run that tournament, and then yeah.
Nice. That sounds so chill. I love that.
It's so chill. I mean, like half the time, like I'm in a voice call with the other admins for like at least 3 hours, so we just like talk about like all sorts of like stuff. And it's like it's basically just like I guess the best way I think I can compare it to is like if you're working at a company IT department and like there's nothing really going on, so you just kind of chat to your coworkers for several hours. Like
yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Pinky in the chat asked if the Turf War Best of 3 as the first game was your idea.
well, so for Nintendo's like championships, so you might remember for this for like UK championships or for NA championships, Turf War BO3 counting as game one was the standard, and this was like what Nintendo had forced NSE to run for the first like iteration of their league, because that was in collaboration with Nintendo.
Yeah.
And it's sort of just stuck. And when I became the admin, I was like, okay, I can make some changes to the league format here. You know, I actually decided to keep the Turf 4 in. I was like, okay, I want to keep Turf 4 in, but I don't want like teams to bullshit wins out of a single game of Turf 4, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And Turf 4 BO3 counting for one game is basically the best way to do that if you want to include Turf. Like, it's a strange format. And like I think it does take a little bit of like getting used to it, just like wrapping your head around it. But if you can it reduces the risk of like teams just cheesing like set wins because they've like, you know, they just happen to like wipe their team in the last 30 seconds and like game 5 or something. Which is like the worst possible way you could lose a set, in my opinion. Like one of the worst. This is also why like Turf War BO3 is always game 1. It's a nice opportunity. Like, I think like there are obviously there are obvious downsides to it. It's a bit hard to explain to people especially who are new, but I think the upsides for it being it includes Turf War in a somewhat like in the most competitively friendly way possible. So a lot of people who play like collegiate Splatoon are casuals who like, you know, don't really have anything experience with the competitive scene. A really big example is when like my like NSE championship winning team, one of the members of that team who like I ended up I've ended up dating her, so you know she's been my girlfriend for like over 2 years now.
Nice.
But she, before NSE, she was like deathly scared of playing the ranked modes, so she only ever played Turf War. And she basically like turned up because it was like, you know, there's Turf War in this tournament, and you know I'm playing with 3 other people who aren't as scared of the ranked modes. And then through that, like being introduced to the rank modes in like a way that wasn't like really, really scary, like she's ended up like just becoming a competitive player full stop, and she's just been like rocking around low level for like the last year or so, which is really, really cool. So that's like part of reason why I include it. It's like if you want to get into competitive, I think you need to make sure that the tournaments that you are running are a good way of easing people into competitive.
Yeah.
And you need to like, and a lot of tournaments these days like do it by running what is like quote unquote standard. It's like, you know, we have a standard rule set, you know, our map list is like pretty standard, and we run like only zones or all modes. But really, like, what you want to do is you want to try and understand the audience that you want to attract with your tournament. So in my case, I am like, I have to accept the fact that a lot of the people that will be playing in NSE will probably be people who don't really know how to play the rank modes or don't like the rank modes very much. And so it's about finding a compromise and a way to let those teams who might have three players who really love playing the rank modes and really hate playing turf find a fourth like more easily as well.
Yeah.
It's basically just about like, so in terms of like the turf war BO3, it's like, yeah, I understand like the negatives behind having it in, but also like I think then like the downsides of it being there are worth it, considering that the upsides mean that it is like a lot more casual friendly while also not being like too irritating for competitive players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it allows for people to like, even those who are like really competitive, like it's a nice way to kind of just get used to like controls and everything, especially because like there's always like the first game jitters, right? So I feel like turf war is a nice way to just kind of ease them into that setting of like, okay, I'm playing in person, I'm playing competitively. There may or may not be people watching regardless, but like it allows them to just chill.
Yeah, and it's also like if you lose that first game, it might not even count anyway because there's still like two more games within that mini BO3. So if you win those two games, like that, like you losing that first game because the jitters literally doesn't matter. It's not on the scoreboard,
Yeah.
and because of that, it's like it's a really big help in like reducing like anxiety in like newer players or like less experienced players.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I kind of just like the idea of like, especially in like like this college and school scene of Splatoon. It allows people who are casual to put more effort into that, and trying it out rather than just being like online where it's like, oh yeah, we have like low level, we have like mid level, but like you have to play like the four modes that aren't turf war to
Yeah,
start off
it
out.
it really is just like, as I say, it's about finding that entry point.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good entry point, you're not going to get people to try out the game like in a competitive sense, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes sense to me. So I know you did mention that since you're not in uni anymore, you're more of like the towards the TO side of things and actually competing. Um, was there ever like a point of competing for uni over like online or other like events that you found to enjoy more than the other like regular like community fed events?
I think like when I was competing in university tournaments, like a really big thing was like all of my teammates are like like live within like 2 miles of me, and we all go to the same university. So what happened was like quite often we just like met up as friends at the pub, had a few like had a few drinks, like chatted, uh, like all the things that come with being in an English pub and having a little bit of a drink, which because the thing is like in the US like your drinking age is 21. In the UK you can do it from the age of 18.
Yeah.
So like as soon as you are of university age, you can just go into a pub and order like God knows what. Like we have this like there's the like the pints that like especially if you go to like a Weatherspoons, it's like Weatherspoons like this chain of pubs like, and that's where we always went because the pints are cheap, but like the range of drinks is like quite large. So I've had like all sorts there. Um, but like we would go to the pub together and just like hang out as well as like playing Splatoon online together, and that's like a really big like thing.
Yeah.
I think like if you're playing Splatoon online with like other people, it's like I enjoy like the people that I've met through this game online, and I've hung out with like the vast majority of them in person at least once at this point. So to me, like they like once I've hung out with them in person, it's like yes, this person is now like a friend and not just like oh they're an online friend.
Yeah. They're
I
not the
still have that
voices in
sort
my
of
head.
yeah, they're not the voices of my headphones. They're like in front of me, and they have like a face and like hands and shit. Like, like they wear clothes.
Yeah. They're not
Like,
just a disembodied voice. This is crazy.
yeah, they're not just like a disembodied voice. There's like a person you can actually attach the voice to, and it's like like even if you've like seen pictures of what they look like, when you actually see them in person and their mouth moves when they're speaking to you, it's like, oh my god, like. But as I say, like with the university stuff, like that sort of thing just like sort of comes naturally, because like we first started playing online, and then there's sort of like it didn't even, nobody like said anything, but I think we were all like thinking this thing of like, wait, so we're all at the same university, and there's like a gaming society meetup every Monday. What if we just like all turn up to that? Lo and behold, we all turn up to that, and there was like a Splatoon table that played the game for like a while, and we just like hung out. We hung out and played the game.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like the first season that X Rank came out, I was on the like university Wi-Fi, trying to push my like my 2900, and not being able to find games because it's like it was it was the first season of X Rank, and it was like the last couple of like weeks of the season, so no one was around. And I was like 30th in the leaderboard. I ended up at I stayed at 30th in the leaderboard for the whole thing because literally no one could find games because I picked NA. So like being able, as I say, like the big thing is like you can very easily hang out with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like like literally everyone is within the same like town or city or whatever. So if you want to like just hang out, you can. And as I say, like I remember not only like the stuff I've done online with them, like we've played Mario Kart online, obviously Splatoon as well, but we've gone to the pub and gone like a massive amounts of hooch. If you ever go to a UK LAN, buy a bottle of hooch and drink it if you can. It's a very good drink. Not sponsored, obviously, but
Yeah.
you know, uh, really really nice drink. It's like this alcoholic lemon. It's kind of like alcoholic lemonade, I guess is what I call it. But it's really really nice. It's like downing balls of hooch and like listening to groups of like girls with incredibly posh accents, and we're just like, oh my god, like no way those people exist, like.
You always read about or like see them like the memes about it, and you're like, no, dude, this is real. These people exist out there.
Yeah, no, like I've seen like so many memes about like these people existing. And it's like okay, like I haven't really experienced that, and I've lived here for like like however long. Surely they don't exist. And then I'm like we're sat like the next booth over in the pub. It's just like rah, my parents haven't given me my £5,000 allowance for the month yet, and it's like, and we're all just listening in like what the fuck, like.
Yeah.
Like I think like they get like they have that much money and they went to Weatherspoon. Like
That's honestly, I think the best thing I've heard from when it comes to like comparing the like university events to like online. It's just the people, right? And I know like
hmm
for people with lands, right, it's always like, oh, it's so cool to see who's in my area and stuff. But I feel like there's so much more to relate to when it's like university, because it's like you have more than just like the local area to talk about. You have literally anything that you might not like about classes or professors or you name it to discuss.
yeah, exactly. And like as I say, like I mentioned the pub quite a lot, but it is a really big part of like culture over here.
Yeah, yeah.
So even like UK lands in particular, like if you want to speak to someone, all you really need to do if you don't get a chance proper chance to speak to them, just go to a pub with them, and
Mm-hmm.
then you might have a drink, and then words sort of just start flowing, and then before you know it, you've actually like gotten to know someone who you probably never would have gotten to know before. It does I think somewhat contribute to UK lands have a bit of a reputation for being very loud.
Mm-hmm.
There are reasons behind this. I could get into the lore if you really want, but the general thing of it is like a lot of the people, because like the community is like quite small, it's quite tight knit, and we've all drunk together multiple times at this point. like it very much just is like one big like massive like friend hangout. And even then like the nice thing about it as well is that like it has enough similarities with like sort of how you get to know like people who play Splatoon in your university, to the point where if you want to integrate into the sort of UK scene from your university, from like the university side of things, it's really really easy to do so.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Honestly, hearing that it's loud, I love that. I'm someone who like loves to get loud myself at lands, and like it's always fun because like you'll always be the loudest in a quiet area, and then you get turning heads, and it's like knowing that like over there, your events are always loud no matter what. I might have to make a trip.
The events are loud and we yell so much shit talk at each other, but the key thing is that we all know each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, so it's all in good
So
fun.
yeah, like well, the last LAN that I played at, like Spat Legacy, we played like the set my pickup played against. It was against like a like basically Chewits, but instead of like me or Snipes, they had Chano.
Okay.
And while we played this set, we lose like it's like a BO3. We lose one of the games in the BO3, and then like Chano just like stands up and yells like you're carried by your shell, your shit. um, and then we win the next game, win the set. I just stand up and yell "suck your mum," and then afterwards we just like shake hands. It's like nothing ever happened. Like, but I think like that's the sort of the vibe that you want if you're gonna have like something like that at your LAN. If you're getting loud at people that you don't really know, and there's even a chance that you like they might interpret what you're saying as like you actually being a like a massive dickhead,
Yeah.
then just don't do it.
Yeah.
There's no point. Like at the end of the day, all that's gonna happen is they're gonna think that you're a dickhead, and then just like that, like that's one person who like that's one more person who feels like ever so slightly alienated from either players that they've looked up to or just the scene in general.
Yeah.
Like it's a really like you like if you're gonna do like shit talk like that, you gotta make sure that the scene is able to like you got to make sure that like it's clear that you are just talking shit in the set and that what you don't really like actually mean what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or if you do mean what you're saying, it doesn't really matter after the set is done, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. At the end of the day, we're all here for the same thing, and that's to play this game and have fun.
yeah, exactly.
So as we start wrapping things up, one of the last things I do want to ask is, are there any hopes that you have for this event coming up, for the league coming up, or is there anything you're looking forward to?
So in terms of the event that like this upcoming event, so I don't know if we've not really like touched on it too much, but yeah, like NSE has its next league being streamed by Dapple Productions.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I am very happy about the fact that Dapple Productions is wanting to stream. For a while now, people have been saying that they wanted an NSE stream, and like NSE doesn't tend to dedicate many resources to like streaming their like sort of online competitions.
Mm-hmm.
So for like Dapple to be like, "Hello, we want to stream your tournament," and I'm like, "Yay, I want someone to stream my tournament!" Like, it's really like it that's something that I'm really looking forward to in and of itself. Like the UK like collegiate scene is one of those things which like I think it's been like quite underground for a while. I've heard from like Hollow. Funnily enough, Hollow actually like got started in like the competitive Splatoon scene through NSE as well.
Oh wow.
So like NSE has produced like it's one of those things where like you kind of look at it and you're like, oh, what is NSE? Like, do I know anybody that's played NSE? And it's like, yes, you probably know, like there are multiple people in the Splatoon community who are very prominent who have played NSE.
Yeah.
Yoshel has played NSE. Hollow has played NSE. I played NSE. Um, there's several like like there's a whole bunch of like other people as well. But I also, as I say, I hear from Hollow that like NSE is like a pretty big sort of like a quite large source for new like low level players because it like collegiate tournaments are like for a lot of people their first experience with competitive Splatoon, and so I guess like one of the main hopes that I've got is this NSE season is looking like shaping up to have like the highest like ratio of competitive to non-competitive players like ever.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how it will look in terms of like the standings, like like which teams have gotten better since last season, which teams like haven't improved as much. The big thing that one of the other things that I'm looking forward to as well. So I don't like. This is a question that goes out to like TOs, I guess in general, but like when you have a tournament that you're TOing and you see all the teams that are signed up, do you have a favorite? Like, do you have a favorite team in your bracket?
I feel like most TOs do. From what I've seen. Like maybe they don't like say it, but I feel like some TOs definitely do.
Yeah, I don't say that I have a favorite, but I do have a
Yeah,
favorite
secretly you have
NSC
to.
team. I do have a secret favorite NSC team, and I'm really hoping that they turn up because like they're one of my favorite. Like they've been my favorite team ever since like even when I was playing in NSE. Like I
Mhm.
really want. I like seeing them be like in the tournament. Um, if anyone can guess like which team it is, I will be very surprised because it's not like the only thing I'll say, like the only hint I'll give, I guess, is it's not one of the teams that like tends to do like especially well.
Mhm.
Like it is one of the like sort of rocks up gets O2'd kind of kind of teams,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
like they're like that's kind of why they're my favorite. They turn up and they try their best, and then and then like obviously they don't make it through to the top rounds because they're not able to like win enough games or whatever. But the fact that they've been turning up to NSE like for as long as they have, and the same thing has happened to them every single time. Like I have immense respect for it, and I really hope that they continue playing in NSE seasons.
Yeah, it just shows that they're not in it to win. They're in it for a good time.
Yeah, and if teams are showing up just to have a good time, then yeah, I guess I'm doing something right, right?
Absolutely. That's the way I take it. It shows that no matter what happens there, it's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, exactly. And like all the people that bitch about turf war, it's like, well, you bitch about turf war, but fun fact, did you know several other teams that like play in this league other than you, and they turn up all the time? Like,
Who doesn't like
therefore,
turf war now?
who doesn't like turf war now? Checkmate. Like,
Oh man, I love it. All right, well, those are all the questions I personally have for you today. So I'd like to give this opportunity to you to add anything else that you'd love to mention or go over. The floor is yours, really.
yeah. So I guess in terms of like things I'd want to go over, obviously, watch NSE. It'll be on every Monday throughout all of February and some of the Mondays during March as well.
Hmm.
But as I say, Mondays like it'll be 7 p.m. GMT or 8 p.m. If you're in most of Europe. That'll be when the like the NSE sets will be streamed. In terms of like other stuff that I want to like mention, I run like online tournaments for the UK scene, and I know I briefly mentioned this before, but I am looking into running like offline tournaments. So if anybody has any experience, like please, please like give me words of wisdom so that I do this properly. Um, yeah, in terms of like other stuff, that I might want to like talk about, I suppose it's like yeah, it's kind of insane to like be on here as a TO, like considering that as I say, like I've been like a long time like competitive player, and now I'm like in this position, being being interviewed as like primarily like I think a TO,
Hmm.
as opposed to being a competitive player. It's like quite a strange shift, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
You saw somebody ask questions of like, "Oh, how did you do that play? What was the thought process?" Now it's like, "So tell me about like you and what you do, and then also how is it like this event?"
yeah, literally, it's just like yeah, it's also kind of refreshing because like I get asked like quite a lot about like, and I have been like asked quite a lot about like advice fitting brush, just seeing as I'm like one of the main like sort of Western representatives of the weapon. So it's it's odd, but also like sort of like a welcome kind of odd to like just kind of be in a situation where you're asked a bunch of questions and like not a single one of them has been like, hey, so like how do you play Ingbrush in the current
Yeah.
metagame in Splatoon 3 for the Nintendo Switch? Like
Yeah.
it's just really nice and refreshing in that way.
Yeah, it's a good change of pace.
Yeah, 100%. I guess it's like if I were to like shout anything out, obviously like
Mm,
I
absolutely.
have. Yeah, I have Twitter, which I don't use very often. I have Blue Sky, which I was like, I'm gonna use this, and then I still don't use it very often. Uh, I'm Spore Cloud on Blue Sky and Cloud Spore on Twitter, so have fun with that. Um, I've also like want to give a. I also do like stream very occasionally. Like I've been like, now that I work full time, it's been like quite hard to find time to stream. But
Mhm.
occasionally I will do streams for either like just me playing the game or my tournaments on twitch.tv/spore underscore. Um, and yeah, aside from that, like I think the only real thing I've got left to shout out is obviously like go like follow NSE. It's like at NSE.gg on basically so NSE_GG on basically like all of their socials like Instagram and Twitter and that.
Mhm.
And yeah, for those of you who are watching the stream version of the podcast or watching the VOD or whatever, if you like my profile picture as well, it's Jigo Splatoon on Blue Sky. So, you know, very good artist and a really good friend of mine as well. Cannot recommend her enough. If you want some really good looking art to slap onto Discord.
Let's say our community has struck up so many great artists. I love seeing all the different art styles and everything.
Yeah, like there's so many, like there are so many artists, and like if I guarantee, like if you don't know, like if you have, like if you see an artist and you don't like their art style, you will absolutely find like another artist whose art style like just clicks with you perfectly. It's a really like cool side of the community, and one that I'm very glad to throw my money at whenever I
Yeah.
get paid by NSE.
I feel that so much.
But the urge to get commissions is real. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say.
It's like just if especially as an artist, like you're dying to, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm opening commission soon." You're just waiting on their page, hitting refresh for that post to come out that they're open.
Oh yeah, I've had like a couple of like commissions from like Jinko, in the past, and it's like whenever Jinko puts out like commissions, it's like I'm opening slots, and then it's like please reply if you're interested, and then you refresh and 10 people have already replied, and it's like oh my god.
Yeah. Like it's like not even half a second goes by and everyone's reply. It's like, did I hope I got it? I hope I got it.
Yeah, then like you wait for that DM, and then if you don't get that DM, or if you get to be like sorry, like maybe next time, then it's just like no,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? I want art. Like,
What would I spend my money on this time?
there's so many things you can like spend money on in this day and age. Like, you know,
Oh, so true. No, absolutely. But art's the more fun one.
for art is always more fun. It's something you can look at and appreciate. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're able to use it as like a profile picture or something like a background, like it just looks so good.
Yeah, like especially like once you hit that point where you've got enough art that you can cycle through like different pictures and stuff for your art as well. It's like that's when you hit like the real conundrum because it's like okay, I have like art and I'm gonna you cycle through it and then you realize I want to change my like profile picture to be this vibe, but then that picture doesn't really exist. So
Mhm.
then you're like fuck, I'm gonna have to like commission someone so I can like
Yeah,
get that vibe, you know?
absolutely. So I like whenever I get commissions, I always like try to think of something unique to ask for it. So I'm like, each one is like vastly different than the next.
Yeah, exactly. You want to like make sure stuff is different, just to make sure your like art stands out, I suppose.
Yeah, it keeps it fresh, keeps it good.
Yeah.
All right, well, if that's everything you have to add, I think that will mark us finished up here.
Hmm.
So, Spore, I want to give a huge thank you to you for coming on out and discussing the upcoming Spring League. And as Spore mentioned, every Monday of February, bleeding a little bit into March, tune in on Dapple production. So, right where you're watching already to catch some uni Splatoon action. I've been your host, Cactus, and you've been watching the Cactus Patch. Thank you all so much for coming and listening, and we'll see you in the next one.